Hello, my name's Emilie Gordenker, and I'm the director of the Van Gogh Museum in Amsterdam, or Van Gogh Museum, as we say here. It's my great pleasure to welcome you and to introduce you to my colleagues, Rein, director of the Stedelijk Museum, our neighbors, my colleague Edwin Becker, who is our chief curator of exhibitions, and last but certainly not least, Leontien Koelewij, also curator at the Stedelijk Museum. We're here to present you a really amazing project. This is the very first time our museums have worked together on one exhibition. So it's more than just an exchange of loans. It was really a true collaboration. And it is our great pleasure and privilege to tell you that we are doing a major exhibition on the artist Anselm Kiefer, one of the greatest artists today. The exhibition is really just one exhibition, one ticket, two museums. And it is, as it were, a diptych. The exhibition begins at the Van Gogh Museum and introduces Kiefer's very long-standing relationship and interest in Vincent van Gogh. In fact, when he was 17, he received a scholarship, a travel scholarship, and decided to go from Vincent's birthplace, Zundert, all the way to the south of France in his footsteps. Even today, Vincent van Gogh is a major influence on Kiefer. The exhibition continues in the Stedelijk. It tells the story of Kiefer's long-standing relationship with the Netherlands, with Dutch collectors, and in particular, the Stedelijk Museum in Amsterdam. And what's really exciting is that together we're showing major new work, objects that no one's seen before.
Thank you, Emily. My name is Rein, director of the Stedelijk Museum, and we at the Stedelijk, we will continue the show which starts at the Van Gogh Museum, and we will pick it up there where Kiefer starts his career as a real artist and becomes important on a global scale. The exhibition at the Stedelijk is twofold. First of all, we're going to look back together with Anselm Kiefer, and secondly, we're also looking towards the future. Looking back means that we are looking at the period when Kiefer was welcomed by the Dutch public, by the Dutch audience, during a time when the acceptance in Germany was still a bit more difficult. The focusing on the horrors of the Second World War was quite difficult in Germany in that period. And in the Netherlands, the subject matter was welcomed much more. The Stedelijk Museum had a well-acclaimed show in 1986 of the work of Anselm Kiefer, a large survey of his work. And the Stedelijk was one of the first museums also to acquire a good collection of works of Anselm Kiefer. After decades, we will show this collection again, and we will make clear the importance of this collection of Anselm Kiefer and the stand it also has in the reputation, in the growing reputation of Kiefer in the 1980s. And on the second hand, we were confronted with new works by Anselm Kiefer. And the key work is the big installation, which is very immersive, the 24 meters long painting, which is called Sag mir, wo die Blumen sind, which is also the title of the exhibition. The title goes back to a song by Pete Seeger, the American folk singer and protest singer, and it was a protest song, an anti-war song from 1955 with the title Where Have All the Flowers Gone? And Marlene Dietrich made it famous in 1962 under the German title Sag mir, wo die Blumen sind. This new piece, together with other new pieces, will show the discussion between the older works and the newer works, and we let ourselves very much surprised by this. But to tell the story more in depth, I hand over the word to the curator of the Van Gogh Museum, to Edwin Becker, who will tell us a lot more about the specific details of the exhibition.
Thank you, Rein. I would like to stress the fact, and Emily mentioned it already, that it starts actually when he was a teenager, following the footsteps of Van Gogh in Holland, Belgium, France. He had a diary. He also made a lot of sketches. We will show some of these sketches in our exhibition, early sketches which show you landscapes and also portraits, very expressive, realist, in a style which already predicts in certain way what is coming afterwards, because actually the influence of Van Gogh is lingering on to the present day. And if we look at some of the pictures, you will see immediately how this influence had an impact on Kiefer. For example, you see a sort of interpretation of the wheat field with crows. And luckily, we have in our exhibition the picture. So that's also why we're so proud to have Kiefer in our premises, because it shows you directly the connection with Van Gogh and Kiefer. And I have to say that already from early age, Kiefer was not so much interested in the myth of the artist Vincent van Gogh. It was more the construction, as he calls it, of the paintings. So he says it's layer upon layer. It's a new perspective. It's a bit distorting perspective. And it's also sometimes a very high or a very low horizon. And what is striking when you will see the works in a couple of months in our museum, that you're struck by the fact that they are monumental, they are vast landscapes, they are panoramic, as Van Gogh loved to do so in his late period in Auvers.
But in a much smaller scale.
The Van Goghs, of course, are much tinier in scale, but we'll find a solution for that.
We're going to find
that.
It's a good tension.
That was certainly...
It was tricky, but I think we found a great solution.
Yeah. And, well, to mention one of the key pictures, I think, and that's about 5 by 8 meters, that canvas, so you can imagine, you know, luckily we have the space for that, but it's gorgeous on scale. And it's called, very funny enough, Dutch title, De Sterrennacht, the Starry Night. We have a small sketch in the exhibition which shows you a different version of the Starry Night. But you have to imagine that Kiefer himself was struck by the Starry Night picture of Van Gogh. And he says, there you have the moon and you have the stars. They orbit in themselves, and it's like their own cosmos. They're only connected, as he points out, by vigorous brushstrokes, and that's what makes the comparison also with Kiefer and Van Gogh, because Van Gogh is very much known for his really flamboyant and thick impasto with layers of paint, almost three-dimensional sculptures. And of course, if you look at the pictures by Kiefer, you will see it consists not only of oil and canvas, or shellac, or acrylic. It's with straw, it's with lead, it's with so many other materials. And that's also the striking resemblance, I think, between Van Gogh and Kiefer. There is also the theme of the sunflower, of course, that has to be in our premises because we have the iconic sunflowers, but we also have a beautiful small picture of a sunflower laying a bit in decay, and that's what's more attractive to Kiefer. Because, you know, the sunflower, he comes up, when the sun shines, he bends his head to the sun, then afterwards, he closes during the night. And as Kiefer says, the yellow is fantastic, but soon there will be a sort of deterioration of the flower, and the blossoming falls into decay. And that's what makes it interesting when you see at Kiefer's Sol Invictus, which is translated invincible sun. You see a huge monumental sunflower, and the artist himself is laying below the sunflower in a, what we call savasana, a yoga pose, a corpse pose. So it seems like he's dead, but it's all about birth, rebirth, and also how grow and blossoming and flourishing and then decay is a sort of cycle of life, human life and nature, and that's very important as a sort of leitmotif in the oeuvre of Kiefer. I think I could tell more and more about it.
We could keep going forever.
But I give the word to Leontine.
Yeah, that
to
sounds
continue.
great, Edwin. So my name is Leontine Koelewij. I'm curator at the Stedelijk Museum. And what I think is really amazing about this exhibition, what we can present at the Stedelijk Museum, are these connections that you can see between his very early works from the 1980s and his very recent work. So, for instance, the first work that you will see is the painting Innenraum, it's interior. And you will see a large monumental space. It's a space that was designed by Albert Speer in the Rijkschancellery. And this was the place where Hitler and his staff came together in the 40s. It's a way for Kiefer to deal with this very troubled past. Well, the building was destroyed in 45, but Kiefer paints it as if it's still like in decay. There's a sphere of desolation, you can say. So all these references to history, to literature, to philosophy are really important in his work. There's another piece from our collection, which is Frauen der Revolution, the women of the revolution. Well, as we know, history is usually formed by very famous and powerful men, but Kiefer paints all these revolutionary women from French history. So we see Charlotte Corday and Marie Antoinette, all with little flowers. Another thing I think you will see in the exhibition is the way he deals with these different kinds of materials. Like you mentioned, Edwin, he does not only paint, but he also works with clay, for instance, with dried flowers, with all these different materials that he brings together. And I think it will be amazing to see that in the new installation that Rein already talked about, Sag mir, wo die Blumen sind, where have all the flowers gone? This is a large installation that you will experience when you come up the stairs of the old building of the Stedelijk Museum, and you will be surrounded by this whole installation. Kiefer has included all sorts of materials, all sorts of elements. You will see uniforms, you will see flowers, but also the portraits of the Greek philosophers. And I think this is a very important element. Kiefer wants to talk about the human condition, about life and death, about rebirth. And as the Greek philosopher Heraclitus said, pantarei, everything changes and nothing remains the same. So this is also a very important element in the ideas, in the concepts of Kiefer. And I'm very happy that we can show that in this exhibition.
When I started as a director, it was a no-brainer that we wanted to do a show with Kiefer. There are such obvious connections. Mm-hmm. But in order to work with him, as you've both said so articulately, he works on a grand scale. You need space. You need also space to think about more than one theme. Mm-hmm. So when I approached Rein about this, I was hoping it would work out, just in order to realize this exhibition, obviously. But what you've seen already through our conversation is how layered this exhibition has become and how this collaboration has really added to the initial idea. So that we look backwards, we look forwards, we look at his influence, one artist, but also the larger scale of his thought, and indeed that whole idea of birth and rebirth and the human condition, as you say. People often ask me, well, how is this collaboration? You know, it's pretty unusual that museums on our scale, sometimes considered as rivals, should be working together. And I'm really not kidding. It's not.
We're no rivals, huh?
Exactly, but it's not been like that. And that's been the secondary reward, I would say. We're learning a lot from each other. The Stedelijk has a lot more experience in working with living artists than we do. We have other experiences, and not only are we going to produce, I think, a great show together, but we've come together as museums, and that's a wonderful reward.
And it's also important to bring our audiences together, to bring our different audiences together, I would say. That is something which in our times is necessary all the time also.
Absolutely.
We are two vast museums, two big museums, and I think the oeuvre of Anselm Kiefer, to show it as we want to show it, needs really two museums, and needs also the going from the one to the other.
Exactly.
And needs this kind of transition phases which are in the exhibition. You start very early with the exhibition, we pick it up and we go on, and of course we both have the new works also, so you can see important parts of Kiefer in each museum, but you see the whole Kiefer. Well, the whole is a bit too much probably, but a very important Kiefer, you see it in both museums.
Absolutely.
And you have to go it from the beginning until the end.
Absolutely, and what you say is completely right about our audience. We have slightly different audiences, and so what we're really hoping from our perspective is that many of our international visitors will cross over and see how fabulous the Stedelijk Museum is. So, and our side, it's a more surprising choice for people who might think, well, I'm just going to go see the sunflowers and the wheat field with crows. We hope that this will add depth and resonance to their visit.
We are very grateful for this collaboration, Emilie. We think that also in the year that Amsterdam exists, 750 years, that it's the first time we as large museums next to each other are working together. We have two stories, but at the end it's one story.
Absolutely.
And this one story, that is what we want to try to promote. Kiefer, when he started, he was a contemporary artist at the Stedelijk. And today, he is somewhere in between contemporary and modernist. He is both, I would say. He is a modern artist and a contemporary artist. And that's a development you see with an artist when he keeps on working and keeps on developing. And Kiefer had this development in his work, and this huge development, also this development in terms of scale, but also the development in terms of like making new installations which are immersive almost.
He's relentless. He's, you know, he's almost 80, but he is producing so much work. It's really incredible. And what he often does, especially for site-specific installations like the one we're going to be showing at the Stedelijk, is he does a mock-up in his studio.
Yeah, a mock-up at one-to-one scale. So it's really, you can really see how the exhibition will be, how the works will be.
And
he keeps on working on the installations.
Edwin, you remember we were there and we saw a few works we thought would be appropriate.
Certainly, yeah.
But we were warned, right?
Yes.
That he might keep working on them. So we're also very excited to see what, in fact, he's done since the initial visit to the studio.
Perhaps it's like a vernissage in the old days where, you know, the artist is coming with a sort of, you know, installation and doing the last bits. Well, actually, I think he will write something on the walls, which he always does.
Yes.
So that's the sort of mark. Now it's finished. Now it's an exhibition. Now it's one exhibition in two places.
Kiefer did 2 site visits to Amsterdam, and it was really incredible to see him walking through the exhibition spaces and having memories of Amsterdam, having memories of a show in 1986, and also developing ideas afterwards. And for instance, the Sag mir, wo die Blumen sind installation really came out of this second site visit also, where he really thought again and again, and how can I tackle this this iconic space of this museum. That was incredible to see.
That was amazing. For us, he actually went quite quickly through the paintings collection. I was a little surprised by that, and spent hours with our drawings in our storage space. And he was fascinated by all the things that we don't have on display, pulled open racks. So together we came to the selection of the works by Van Gogh that are appropriate to show in our part of the exhibition and whatnot. So we have a few drawings, interesting drawings, as well as paintings, but very much done in collaboration with him as a result of the visit.
Given his working practice, we will see everything on the 7th of March next year. Then we will know how the show will look like. It's still kind of a surprise also, and that's good that it's a surprise. There should be some magic also in curating, and we're looking forward very much to the 7th of March.
Absolutely. Thank you, Rein. It's my pleasure to thank all of you on behalf of all of us. As you can see, the excitement here is palpable. We are very much looking forward to seeing all of you at our exhibition, Sag mir, wo die Blumen sind, which will run from the 7th of March until the 9th of June next year, 2025. We really hope to see you there.